Imagine the talent that my mother had born to her equals a duck. What is it, Trey?
Yo, man, that's the formula.
Yo, Formula episode 9, back after a little bit of a hiatus, as it seems to have been between our last few episodes, but it seems like we got kind of a consistent routine going, getting back to doing this weekly, and just getting to a good flow and get some consistency with it. But what's been going on, man? How's the last few weeks been? How was your Thanksgiving?
Things are good, man. Thanksgiving, finally got back to Green Bay to visit family, so that was nice. It is always busier than what I expected to be. Just I got my family there, Steph's family, so it was busy, but we got to see the right people, and it was good. It was nice to see everyone. I hadn't seen anybody in a few months, so that felt good, and I feel like I had some realizations while I was out there. Things are good. How about you?
Did you guys have to go to like a bunch of different Thanksgivings, or like how many actual events did you have to go to?
No. We only had my family, my immediate family, and then Steph's immediate family. Well, her immediate family is basically her extended family. They have a interesting dynamic. But they act more like an immediate family than anything. But yeah, we're at my brother's house, my sister's house, making sure we were spending time with my nieces and nephews. So we had something planned every day for sure.
Yeah, I know you got to take some time off work, right? So like, did you get a chance to chill out, or was it like go throughout the week?
I think for me, I wanted to really use this time, and we're going to jump into this too, but just totally revamping my goals and where I'm headed to. I think for a little while was just kind of going through the motions in a way. So I really was intentional of like spending time thinking about what I want actually and how to get there. So
Yeah, family time I feel like is good for that. That's like when I was in Florida, I guess a few months ago now, we were talking about the same thing. Like you don't really get a chance to take your mind off stuff, but family's a good way to do that.
yeah, for sure. Especially because like, I mean, at my work, I spend all day staring at a screen,
Yeah.
and that's like the only time I get to not do that. So
Yeah.
yeah. But what about you?
Fire.
What was your Thanksgiving?
One was good, man. We passed kind of like ships in the night. I was in Chicago this past weekend. We went to go see Caroline's family, her dad's side, who I haven't met yet, and it was good. Yeah, it was good to have some time out of just like our regular scheduled programming. We typically have a lot of we typically what are you laughing at? Regular scheduled programming.
Yeah.
We typically have a lot of different events to pop between my family and her parents are separated too, so there's always double of everything. And the last few years with Thanksgiving and Christmas being back to back, I mean, it is every year, I guess, but like doing all of those events for both of those holidays had us going into this year like, well, how do we dial that back? Is there a way to split time up, like maybe only go to a few of mine and a few of yours? So I don't know. It was kind of like it was nice that we could just go to her family's. We took the day off Thursday and Friday and then left early Thursday morning to get to her aunt and uncle's house like midday. And yeah, it was good. Like we didn't really have a ton. We went to go see her grandparents, and then we spent that day in Elgin. Don't know if you're familiar with Elgin. It's a just city just outside of Chicago, kind of like suburban town.
I've heard of it. I don't know anything about it though.
Yeah, it's probably like 30 minutes out of Chicago. I couldn't really tell you which direction, but closer to
Probably
us. Yeah.
west, northwest.
And then we took the trek into Chicago, or not the trek, I guess it's only like 30 minutes, but went into Chicago on Friday, which was insane. Like
Yeah.
so busy. We tried to go to the Christmas market and there was like a zillion people waiting in line.
Yeah.
So we skipped that, but did some shopping, which was like kind of so stupid that we were shopping on Black Friday in Chicago, but
Was it busy? Do people even go to stores anymore on Black Friday?
it was like pretty busy. We did the like Uniqlo's and like kind of
Yeah.
places like that, which was like insane. And more often than not, I ended up not buying anything just because I was like annoyed and overwhelmed. But
Yeah.
I don't know. It was good. It was good that we got to spend some time. It wasn't like that hard getting out of the city. We parked in the ramp, Millennium Park ramp. So that was good to just kind of have a clutch spot and get out. And yeah, I don't know. It was good. I love Chicago. It's crazy how like familiar I'm starting to become with it there. And every time we go, we're like, damn, like, should we start spending more time? But it was sweet. Yeah, it was a bummer that you guys weren't in town, obviously, but it was still good that we got to spend some time there.
Nice. Did you so you stayed the night then? I guess I didn't even ask you that. Like, you stayed in a hotel downtown or something?
We stayed in the Elgin Hotel both nights. It was like a Holiday Inn. It's like that was the same city. Our hotel was like 5 minutes from where her
Yeah.
aunt and uncles are, 30 minutes from the city. So we just went back and
That's
we got up at like 5 a.m. on Friday to try to beat the snowstorm, and we did an okay job, but it definitely started to get dicey as we started to get closer to home. But it was sick being back at, you know, 1 on Saturday, like leave Thursday, get back at 1 on Saturday from a trip to Chicago. I feel like it's pretty impressive.
yeah, that definitely is. So you didn't end up going to Corbin then?
No, I didn't. Yeah, I posted on my story like free ticket to Corbin and it got snatched up real quick. I gotta text Jesse. I never asked him how that show was, but I
Yeah.
had like some good responses from people wanting to go. I was bummed, but yeah.
Fair enough. Well, that being said, I guess we can jump into things too. I guess we can start off with just the piece about like ebbs and flows. So if you want to just kind of jump in, when it comes to just overall your life, like clearly there's a lot of ebbs and flows. What does that look like for you? Like how often are these happening, and how do you think they're even happening, and then how are you getting out of them?
Yeah, I guess I don't really know how often they're
Hmm.
happening. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and obviously it's something you brought up earlier, even just going to see family. But I've recognized a lot lately the ebbs and flows that come with feeling creatively motivated, creatively charged, whether it's from like a business perspective or just like a brain perspective. Like I always recognize when I'm super fired up about something, whether it's a business idea or like we're rebranding the podcast or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
And then there's these little ruts that come in between where things don't feel as organized. I don't feel as confident about the stuff that I'm doing. I feel like I'm kind of just going through the motions. My
Hmm.
taste like doesn't feel my taste level with things doesn't feel as great.
Yeah.
And like I said, like it's always super obvious for me to be fired up when I'm in a good place with it, but
Hmm.
it's hard to have a through line for the ruts.
Yeah.
And I don't know who it was, but there was a clip I saw online recently where someone was talking about that like down that downwind, that rut phase, and how good things always come after that phase, and recognizing that good's always going to come after that phase. And I don't know, there's this weird like thought process that I have about growth and like the goals that we set. And we always talk about having kind of a rough idea of our long term goals, but maybe not the steps that we need to take to get there.
Yeah.
And a lot lately, I've been way more aware of the down ticks and then and doing what I have to do to get myself out of that,
Hmm.
which I guess is also a double edged sword. We talked about a bit yesterday with trying to be comfy in those rut moments and not overly leaning on the things that make you comfortable because, the universe is always changing. There's so many things that are out of our hand that we can't always have the gym. We can't always have 8 hours of sleep at night. We can't always have ideas we're super fired up about. So I don't know if that answers your question at all, but I don't know. I think it comes at like a specific rate. I think we'll have a couple months where we're excited about something. The podcast is a good example. Like it's fallen off the schedule, so we haven't been able to do it as often. So like
Hmm.
naturally it falls down the priority list. But the conversations that we have, the awareness of it being something we want to get back to,
Yeah.
I think is always what kind of brings us back to center and then gets us excited about it again.
Yeah.
I don't know.
When it comes to, I guess, recognizing in yourself that this is happening, What are some of those things that like you maybe start to limit on what you're doing? Like when you're excited, you're talking a lot about like your goals and you're taking time for yourself and like being in your own head and just trying to think through ideas. What are some of those things that you see with yourself when you recognize like this is I need to get out of this, like something has to change.
Yeah, I think I start to feel really anxious. I think like something I do often is just take on too much stuff. And I think it's because I see opportunity for creative
Yeah.
excitement so often that I'm like, I'll take that on, I'll take that on.
Yeah.
But there's like a clear separation for me. And I think a couple days ago, I remember I texted you just like a long list of things that excite me, things that make me feel good. And then saying if it doesn't fall within one of these things, then I don't want to channel any energy towards it.
Hmm.
And I think as I've grown in my career, and just grown in myself, it's like there's been different levels of what you're saying, like how it feels. Like I've been able to recognize the shit that doesn't make me feel good. So like
Hmm.
I feel overwhelmed. I can always tell, especially since Caroline and I are kind of in different careers, or just in the fact that like she doesn't work from home and I do.
Yeah.
I'll have a day where I like bust my ass all day. She has like a pretty even keel energy. She comes home and like wants to just like hang out and like things to be good and to like talk about her days. And I
Yeah.
can always tell by how I respond to her being
Hmm.
such a neutral, good energied source that
Yeah.
like I always should be able to just like bounce it off. Like I should be able to kind of just like shrug off the day that I had.
Hmm.
And that doesn't just come from like overwhelm and like anxiety from doing too much. That comes from not liking the stuff that I'm doing, not liking what took up my day that day, having
Yeah.
calls with clients who I don't want to work with anymore, uh, working a job that doesn't, light my fire, something that we talk about often. And then I don't know, I feel like other habits just kind of start to crumble from that then too, because I
Yeah.
don't feel good about, you know, the work related stuff. Then like my sleep is shitty and my sleep is shitty. I don't want to get up early to go to the gym. Like I start just scrolling on my phone. Like I'm not
Yeah.
reading the books that I want to be reading. Like all that stuff. Like I can just create a long list. I have a pretty specific image in my head when you say like what does it take to make you feel good? I
Hmm.
can fire off that list. I can tell you exactly what food I want to eat for every meal. I can tell you like what my hydration's like that day. I can tell you who I talked to. I can tell you how much sleep I got that night. I can
Hmm.
tell you about what my workout was like at the gym.
Yeah.
I can tell you like from like a work perspective what I spent my time doing that day. I have that picture, but like I said, like it's not always going to be that
Yeah.
easy. Like I'm not going to be able to just go down that list every day. So yeah, I don't know. There's different feelings that come with it for sure.
That last piece that you mentioned, I think, is something that is pretty interesting. And I heard, I want to say it was Islam talking about this with UFC,
Mm.
but it might have been somebody else. And they were saying like to be the best fighter in the world is you have to be on two opposite sides of the spectrum of one, you need to be able to really pinpoint and know exactly what it is that you want and what you need to be your best, but then be okay with if every single thing went wrong, still being able to perform and to know that like that stuff does not matter and does not determine the outcome because you're feeling so good and confident. And what that says to me is exactly what you're talking about of like I need to have this clear vision of I know what my perfect day is and like how I get through the week and what I need to do. And that goes into like compounding is where I've been having a lot of conversations with myself about is okay, what are those things that I'm doing consistently that are going to compound and see what those results are at the end of the day? And yeah, I just think that's like, it was such an interesting thing when he said that. And I think that made me really reflect on that too of like, okay, I was in a rut. I've been in a rut. And for me, I knew a while ago, and I can say what those things are that make me feel great, like you're talking about, but I didn't have them written down. I didn't have them updated. And that's kind of what I took my time with when I was back home was just saying to myself, like, okay, rewrite this down. What is the bare minimum that I need to do? And what is the absolute best version that I could be doing? And then, like last night, I was working on what does like a weekly schedule look like for me to make sure I make those things happen? Because a lot of times people overcomplicate them. I think of like the book Atomic Habits. You know, they talk about like the loops that you get, like where it's like if this happens or when you do this next thing. And I think of even the book, what's that called? Extreme Ownership. They talk about how the military just has a process of doing something, but they're okay with the craziness happening. They just know like I'm gonna if this happens or if I'm in this spot, I'm gonna act this way. But chaos is okay because we have these processes. So I just think like for me, I just needed to get into my own head and like really understand what my vision was and dig deep into what it was that feeds me. And I think you start to see quickly how that momentum works when you start to have that. And like I've had so many times where I set goals and I look back on it a year later and I'm like, oh gosh, I haven't looked at this document, but hit 90% of these goals. So I just think it's so interesting how, and like you said too, especially when you are in a rut, you start and you figure out where the problem is, what that momentum and how quickly that that explodes into something great.
And I don't know if I answered this in any of my long tangents, but when you're feeling in a rut,
Hmm.
what is it that like clocks to you, or like what are you recognizing that you feel like you're in a rut?
Yeah. I think the first indicator for me is how much time I'm spending on my phone.
Yeah.
I know that like if I'm on my phone, I'm feeling less than in some sort of way and I'm feeling small in some sort of way. And so like that's the first indicator. Now, what happens from there is a different thing. Like I usually try to go to the gym, but like I was going to the gym and training for this jujitsu competition and I still wasn't feeling good. I was angry every single day. Like and I was angry at the gym even. And I realized with this time it was just I wasn't communicating with myself. And that's usually what I'm using social media as like a distraction of not having those internal conversations, which is so unlike me because I love to just sit in my own head. And like, that's one of my favorite things. My dad throughout my life was always joking, like, you can entertain yourself all day long because we'd sit in cars and I would just laugh to myself and he'd be like, what is so funny?
Yeah, it's interesting because I mean, it all kind of comes back to that same point about feeling comfy in uncomfort. I
Yeah.
think it's something that we're constantly working at, and obviously different stuff gets thrown at us throughout our lives as repetitions to find comfort in uncomfortable moments.
Yeah.
You reference like UFC and in Islam. I
Hmm.
remember Sean O'Malley, when I used to consume a lot of his stuff, he always would talk about his mind being the strongest thing he had when going into
Yeah.
the ring, and how much he worked with like a breathwork coach and like practice mindfulness and journaled. And it
Hmm.
seemed like a really standout practice to me, at least for someone in that sport. And obviously the sports became a whole different thing
Yeah.
over the last decade. But I remember just like having that visual of someone preparing to go to war, someone preparing to go and fight someone else in front of thousands and thousands of people.
Yeah. There's no
How
hiding.
there's what?
No hiding.
Right. Well, like how massive and how important of a skill is having the ability to do that in a profession like that? And like, what can we take from that in our day to day? Like, obviously, we're living significantly more simple lives and doing significantly more simple tasks in comparison to, fighting like that. But I don't know. I feel like if you can master your own mind to some extent and at least learn how to bring yourself back to center, it can be universally successful. And whether it's like for career stuff or figuring out stuff in your head, like my head at times is a scary place just with everything that's bouncing around in there.
Hmm.
I don't necessarily mean like scary and dark and whatever, but I just mean it's a lot of shit. Like it's not always an organized file cabinet in there. Like I take on a lot of stuff in my life. Like I have a big weight on my shoulders for a lot of the stuff that I do. And
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm at a significant I do significantly less now from like a mindfulness perspective than I once did.
Yeah.
I don't want to blame time on that because that's a bad excuse, but I just know that the time that I spent in what I'd call in my formative years,
Yeah.
learning about myself, reading a lot, meditating as like crazy amount as I did, I always would test myself in like somewhat public places and like in situations that were seemingly impossible to meditate, I could like find my center. I just had like a super simple routine with it.
Mhm.
But I think figuring that out then has like done wonders for myself in my more adult years as I juggle significantly more complex things than I did when I was
Mhm.
early mid 20s.
Yeah, for sure. And like people can feel that too
Yeah.
when you have that sense of center and like that confidence that comes along with that. I think that's interesting what you said about the like practicing in public situations or like in different situations. Could you maybe go a little bit into how you developed that or like just how you started trying that and why you even did?
Yeah, I don't know. I think like COVID was a big time for me just because we spent so much time alone. I've always recognized how anxious of a person I am and how busy of a brain I have. But I always have just kind of been like a natural, holistic kind of guy. Like, what can I do?
Yeah, your granola.
I'm granola, that's right. What can I do to like make myself feel better without some sort of outside source?
Yeah.
Um, And like I said, I've always had the busiest brain, and that's always been so interesting to me. And it's been a curse and a blessing at times because it makes certain things hard. It makes me hard. It makes focusing hard. It makes balancing a lot of tasks at once hard.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. What was your original question again? I
Just
need to
like
circle back.
how you first started getting into meditating in different situations and coming back to center.
Yeah, I just like became so like once I started trying it and once I started getting into a good routine, I don't know how I got put on. It probably was like Joe Rogan or some shit, like back in the day when everyone was kind of interested in that kind of stuff. And I downloaded the Headspace app, which I just realized I still pay for a yearly premium subscription of, and I haven't used it probably in months. But all of those guided meditations were super simple, and it just would kind of teach you the process of like start by focusing on your breath, then focus on all the sounds you hear in the room, then focus on your position that you're sitting, and then there always was just like this simple thing that you'd start and finish with inhaling and exhaling to a count of 10. So 5 inhales and 5 exhales. And I feel like I can always gauge my center of self by how far, like if I can get through 10 without getting distracted. Right now, I can't. Like I've tried it recently and I'm like, I can't even count to 10 breaths without like totally forgetting I was doing this.
Yeah.
But I remember I kind of was just like a case study of myself in those early days because I remember learning about stoicism and downloading the Headspace app and listening to all these podcasts and was realizing how much I could change that like disorganization that I had in my head just by like doing simple stuff.
Mhm.
And I would like test it in different areas. I remember when I used to go to my like hometown Lifetime, I used to always go there and sit in the sauna after my lifts, and those saunas would get like pretty packed out. And it was like one row of seating was like gender neutral because it was out by the pool.
Yeah.
So, like girls would come out from their locker room and guys would come out from their locker room. And
Mhm.
there would be like there's like a big glass window and like a whole pool full of people swimming. And I remember in that era, I just would try to lock in on a meditation. I would just sit on the bench,
Yeah.
keep my like feet flat, my hands on my lap, and just go through that practice of focus on the breath first, focus on the sounds you hear. It's like there's
Yeah.
screaming kids, there's like people chatting it up in the sauna, there's like all this
Yeah.
stuff going on. And I would do like 25 minutes, like meditated, like completely
I didn't know you
disassociated from the world.
I didn't know you did this, but I literally did the same thing at my
Crazy.
hometown gym. And like that is like the hottest sauna I've ever been in too. Like if you're not focusing on that stuff, like it's a 5 minute event, but it's crazy. And like how, like you said, it gets so tight in there. And I'm sure everyone has probably been in a sauna, but how distracting. And sometimes there's just those yappers too. And to be able to just tune them out and like you, there's always somebody playing music in there or something, like just
doing
always crazy.
push-ups or like it was like a sign of the times too, because I think like you could probably relate back to a certain era in your life when like I mean, no one could really tell me shit anyway. Like I wasn't really in my head about the kind of stuff that I might be now. Like not that I don't know, spend too much time like in a bad way in there, but just like I don't know, I was like in college. I remember just kind of like being confident about stuff and like I could just sit in the sauna and like not really give a damn. So it's like a combination of that,
Yeah.
being
Your frontal
interested in
lobe
this
wasn't developed.
right. Well, and I didn't really have like adult problems yet. You know,
Yeah.
it was like I'm home at my parents' house for a couple months, like food's free, gonna go back to college and I still got some time left, so I don't really have to figure my career out yet.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think about that often, like how much of a role that played in my like adult development too, and like the stuff that I care about now, like being intentional when you're still figuring out and everyone else is just like effing around. Like I was effing around a little bit too, but I spent some time on personal development when I had the opportunity to, and not before, we're in the like full career mode and like building families and paying
Yeah.
mortgages and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. No, it is interesting, like, because there is, I mean, I partied enough, but to put an emphasis on that, I do remember being like one of the only people I knew at the time that was really focused on those things. And it's interesting how much it's paid dividends. And like I mean, I think for myself, even as a kid, I couldn't sleep. I had insomnia, like none other. And I think it was because like there was a street light literally just going right into my room, but I would stay up all night and
You're
just,
like, "Damn, I can't sleep. I must have insomnia." There's, like, the lights flashing in your
yeah,
window. That's why
yeah,
you thrive in Chicago now, right? Because you just need
yeah.
the lights and sounds and
The sounds is different. The light isn't as bad, but yeah, I would just sit there and stare at my ceiling and you could see cars going by and then the shadow would like be on my ceiling and I would just sit and think about my life and what it was going to be all day long. And like then even in class too. Do fine in class, but I would be sitting there like in my own world, just not knowing what's happening. And I think about how I always said like I'd never want to grow up. And now I'm a little grown up and I'm like, yeah, I was right. I didn't want to grow up. But like that childhood, like being able to dream and imagine is I think something that a lot of people lose and something that I think is so important. I was talking with my manager today about that even like especially in a sales role, you have to be very specific to them and like create an image in their head for them because so many people have lost that ability to truly imagine and like especially in the moment. And I don't think your phone helps in that in any regards to help create that imagination that you may once had or have inside you that you forget about.
So I'm gonna get a little vulnerable for a second, and then after I do that, I'm gonna kind of put you on blast here to give a similar response. I don't expect it to be as packaged because I'm reading off the message that I sent you, so I have a little bit of a cheat code here. But before I referenced kind of this list that I just fired off to you that is all the things that excite me in life. And like before, we talked about recognizing the separation between things that fire you up, things that kind of make you anxious and that you should stay away from. I don't really know that I finished my thought of like there's kind of been a clear line drawn in the sand over the past couple of years for me, especially from a business perspective, like the type of clients that I want to be working with, the type of work that I want to be doing now
Right.
is pretty clear. And now my goal is to get to a place where I shut all that stuff out that I don't like. So just to read off the list that I had sent you of kind of all the things that I called out that I think are
Yeah.
get me excited and I should lean into are music, various forms of working out, making dope brands, podcasting, consulting for businesses who don't know what they're doing, learning new things, snowboarding, clothes. I said intentionally curated spaces, coffee shops, restaurants, and events, and then I said I'm trying to cut everything out that doesn't fall in one of these categories. There might be some more categories, maybe like family and friends. I don't even know if I referenced that. But when I kind of walk through my list of things that are like important to keep me centered,
Mhm.
what kind of comes to mind for stuff like that for you?
Yeah. So here, I didn't do the exact thing that you're talking about, but I have something similar. For me, the biggest thing right now for me is faith, trying to just figure out what that relationship with God is. And secondly, my relationship with Steph as well as my family. My with MMA, whether that's jujitsu or boxing or whatever it is, just that training is super important to me right now, especially like as we talk about like the compounding and stuff like that. Just what can happen with that. For me, it's really about it's almost the principle of stoicism too, and just trying to fully have full control of like myself, specifically when it comes to compounding different things. So right now I'm really in a spot of like testing myself, formula, and as well as visible too, just getting these launched off the ground and creating content that has to do with my journey, specifically with personal as well as how that relates to my training that I'm doing as well. Let me see what else. Coffee's always been one, but I'm kind of getting off that as much. I would say those are the main ones, but really just like understanding how to have a voice and the other piece is communication internally as well as like with the people I care about and in business situations too. So I really want to just test myself and put myself in situations where I have to fully and properly communicate. But yeah, and then down the line is going to be my brand Tent, but that one we're still in the early phases. A lot of just ideas at this point. So
Yeah, you had way more well thought out answers than I. All mine seem like so basic now, making me look bad.
well, like I
Just
said,
kidding.
that's
Just
what I
kidding.
spent time doing this week.
Just before you transition, I want to talk about the video content a bit.
Yeah.
Something since we probably recorded last, you put a few video pieces out talking about your journey with MMA. Obviously, it was specific to this tournament that didn't end up working out. But talk to me, it doesn't even have to be about that content specifically, but what have you enjoyed about doing that? What's your kind of like long-term goal with it? Is it just kind of like a temporary hobby thing, something that you
Yeah.
aren't enjoying in the moment? Or what are your thoughts?
I think for me, I've always wanted to put something out there, like, especially I don't know, I just have always felt like I have some sort of vision and I didn't know how to get it out there or what I wanted to do. And I felt like I had a voice and I wanted to expand on that voice and build that. And I just kind of got sick of talking about it. And I saw an opportunity of like, I have a goal. I now can do the steps that I need to do and I can speak about this journey and the changes that it's made because like for me MMA and jiu-jitsu has done a ton for me with giving myself confidence and like how I feel about how I look and all these different things and especially like being in a city like Chicago, as much as the world wants to say it's a terrible place and, all these different things, like I usually feel safe, but to be able to walk into a room and say to yourself, like, I can take care of myself. And especially if Steph's with me, I can take care of her too. And we'll at least have a shot of being all right in every room that we walk in. So I wanted to tell that journey. And I knew that I was going to have to be doing a lot of consistent things. So it's going to be a chance for me to really just make sure that I was doing those things and then just to see like what would happen. And it was fun. Like I like it. I now have more of a story to tell with it because um with the competition like a week and a half before I cracked my rib. So I felt like shit afterwards, but also it now puts another piece in the story of like that rebuilding that goes along with that and now going after the goal. And I think I can do it a lot better now too, because I've tested myself once and I can see and expand on that now.
Can you just explain at a high level like what the content was that you've been posting, like the style of it and stuff?
Yeah. So a lot of it was I was filming all the different steps that I was doing in training and just making pretty short like 45-second clips. And a lot of it was, I was just talking over. So sometimes it would be me grappling with someone. Otherwise, it was just me like doing sit-ups or doing burpees or something like that. And it was talking about like, first off, why I got into jujitsu, what it's done for me, maybe how I was preparing, those types of things. So it's
You
really
talked
just,
about
no, that was it.
I just was gonna say you mentioned like just wanting to put something out there and this kind of being the opportunity to do it. Any
Yeah.
other like specific things that you could see yourself putting out there in the future? And are you talking just about like video style content, or what do you mean when you feel like you have like this angst to put something out there?
I think I just have a voice that I want. A lot of like what we've been talking about on this too is just like understanding the journey. I also want something that like my kids could see too, that really tells what my story was so they can feel connected to me in ways that I don't think I was able to know about my parents, and probably won't be able to know that as well. So it's more of like a journaling type of deal. And I just think like that's what it will kind of be along the way. Is I love to learn and I want to continue to grow and try new things. And I think it's a good way to even show people you can start any new hobby you want. Like, I think the next thing that I'll do after MMA is probably, I've talked to you about like the kiteboarding that I'm going to do this next summer. So I think that'll be like a big piece of it, is just like, that's going to be really hard to learn how to do, and I'm going to be by myself. So it's going to talk about like how I even start looking for a kiteboard, how I can even learn how to get up on it, or like, because you got to know some stuff before you get out there. So it'll kind of just continue to be those processes, and we'll see what it turns into.
In the past, you've talked about perfecting the art, or maybe not perfecting, but getting better at storytelling. Do you think that this is a good outlet for that, or that type of content is?
For sure. Definitely. And that goes into like having the voice piece too, is just like being able to tell a story in all the aspects of it too.
Yeah, I think it's funny because an underlying theme with everything that you kind of just walk through is about the process of this stuff and documenting the process and having something to show for the process,
Yeah.
which is obviously kind of what we're trying to do with this podcast.
Hmm.
I wanted to talk a little bit about our conversations in the past few weeks about us spiffing things up a little bit around here. We've talked about kind of a strategy. Obviously, as we started this podcast, we kind of just clicked record.
Hmm.
If you go back and look at the channel, you can see the variation in production quality and the thumbnail style and how the titles of the videos have changed. And
Hmm.
we really are just winging it. We're obviously figuring this stuff out as we go. And neither of us really have the passion of becoming some big podcasters, but we do feel like we have voices and we feel like we have stories to tell and interesting perspectives on the things that we're going through in our lives. So, of like the ebbs and flows and the ruts, obviously we've struggled with consistency with this to some extent just because schedules don't align. We don't always have the ability to record as often as we'd like. So call that the ebb. And now we're kind of in the flow, I guess, of getting back to what's it going to take to now take this thing up a notch. So there's been lots of conversations lately about getting some updated branding done, working on a new intro and outro, figuring our like production setups up, figuring out like what day of the week and what time consistently we want to talk,
Yeah.
the potential of bringing on guests in the future. So I don't know. That's something I think I'm really excited about and something for us to document. I've been meeting with and kind of talking with Trent about the redesign of this stuff with a designer named Marco, who I
Hmm.
would love to have on here someday, honestly. Like he's going to be added to that list of potential guests that we started.
Yeah.
But he exemplifies this kind of idea of the process and like documenting the
Hmm.
stuff that goes through your head as you build up a brand, as we build a podcast, as we build a business, as you build sales processes, like whatever the case is.
Yeah.
But I think this is just kind of me putting on wax to say, like, you referenced wanting to put something out there. I think this is kind of like a combined version of that for us because I don't know about you, but I haven't really sent this to people like that. Like, I haven't really sent it to anybody.
Yeah.
There's a few people that, I've talked about what we're doing with this podcast and things like that, but I think if it was a little more dialed in, we'd probably be, pushing this like crazy and putting it out
Mhm.
on our socials. And not that I really care about what people think. I think we both just have a certain taste level that comes with anything that we want to put out.
Yeah.
So what are your kind of thoughts on like the next level of this, and like where what we're doing and what we've been doing like currently sits in your head with formula?
Yeah, for sure. I would say, I mean, I love the branding aspect. I'm excited about that. I think especially what you showed me last night is super exciting. I think it also aligns with like the vision I originally had in my head and like as I've seen it go. So I'm super excited to see like what that turns into. I think though what really excites me though is like on how we're going to be preparing for this, like for each call and or each podcast, and especially the guests. I think it's great, like when you and I are talking, and I love to sit and talk with you all day long, but I'm really excited to basically attack whatever guests we have with questions and just like fully pick their brains and see what comes out of that because I think preparation is something that we both can do very well, especially for something like this. And especially the guests that we're going to be picking. Like, it's going to be easy, I think, and almost the most exciting piece is to do the research to find out like what we want to find out. And I just think like there's something beautiful about like going deep with someone in a conversation, especially somebody that like maybe you know them, maybe you don't know them that well, but understanding how they think and understanding like what their story is. And I mean, I've watched the podcasts I always listen to are always way too long. So I'm excited to now make one of those way too long podcasts that you really get to learn something that you would not have learned unless you took the time to be in a conversation like that or to stick around and listen to one.
Well, I think we're both such curious people. I think like indirectly starting this podcast, we both had already knew and talked about wanting to bring people on down the line. I think like both where we're both at in our lives, we've been extremely fortunate to come across some super, super smart people
Yeah.
and people that we work with every day and that just wow me and wow you. And I'm like always thinking like, damn, Trent and I could have a really good conversation with this
Yeah.
person and we could get perspective from them they maybe didn't even know that they had.
Yeah.
It excites me the idea of kind of doing this a little bit differently too, because
Mhm.
you talk about increasing our preparation a bit and come with a little more structured versions of these conversations. And not that we've been winging it to some extent, and I
Mhm.
still want to wing it to some extent because I want it to feel like a conversation. But I want to make sure there's a through line too where people can listen and pull specific things out of it. And,
Yeah.
as much as it's about our lives, I want there to be like topical themes with each of these that people can put into their lives. And the more people that we bring on, the more perspective that we give, and the higher opportunity there is for something that's discussed within an episode to land with someone. I don't know. I have a list of a handful of people that I think would be super cool to have on. So I'm looking forward to. I think we've talked about maybe doing a few more episodes and starting to put them out there a little bit more, and then start to bring people on from there. Is that kind of what you think as well?
Yeah. I think we're damn near ready. So
Yeah.
if we'll probably have one or two more of just us, but yeah, I think we're at that point now where it's time to make a change that um is a change that we know was coming at some point, but now I think we both feel confident enough and ready enough to take that on. So yeah, I think that's the most exciting piece about it. And like you said, to sit there in a conversation and be like, yeah, we know we're gonna have a great conversation with this person because it's gonna be endless of what can come out of it. So
Well, and as much as we can have insightful conversations, I think we can do it for forever and we can come with more specific topics. But like,
yeah,
I know a lot about you, you know a lot about me. There's like only so much uncovered ground, at least with like in our modern lives. Like, we always can go back and learn stuff about each other from
Yeah.
before we were in each other's lives, but I think I have a pretty good handle on the things you got going on right now and the things that and you have a
Yeah.
good handle on the things I got going on right now. But I don't know. I'm just excited to bring some different energy and to blast this stuff out there so that people can start to get some knowledge from it because I think we got a lot to give.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, yeah, I'm excited about it, and we will be having another one next week. But yeah, I'm pumped. I'm ready to see where it goes, and I'm glad that like evolution is happening constantly, and um,
Well, as much as I hate to look back at some of the old episodes just to see, like, I don't know, the very first episode was like a downloaded Zoom video, and like you just click on the quality, and it's like, okay, they didn't put much effort into this. I was doing the thing for a while where I'm not looking at the camera as much because my desk setup is just weird. So that's like, it's somewhat inevitable that that happens, but
yeah,
I referenced just for the last time, like Marco here, the guy that's helping us with design stuff, he went back and listened to a few of the episodes, and in my head, I'm like, you're probably the only person who's listened to as many episodes as you have. He's like, I listened to the first one, I listened to the third one. Like, hopefully you can pull something from it, because I'm like, for me, it's probably pretty cringy to go back and listen to, but
yeah,
I don't know. It's something that we're gonna have to live with, and it's something that you can visibly see the trajectory of. So I'm excited to continue to level it up.
for sure. Well, it was a great conversation, and I'm looking forward to next week too to keep on.
Yes, sir. We'll talk next week.
Yep.
Formula episode 9.